Welcome to
Conquering My Letterboxd,
the only show where
My Letterboxd.
I'm a bad filmmaker, more so when it comes to actually watching movies. There's a lot of films that I probably should have seen by now, and then a lot of newer ones that I keep adding on, and my backlog just keeps getting bigger and bigger and bigger. I think it's about time that I actually carve my way through it. I want to make this a series where I discover films with you guys. I feel like everyone knows that feeling of endlessly scrolling on a streaming service, only to spend like an hour and a half of your time just watching trailers. You end up giving up trying to find something to watch and just pull up YouTube. And if some of you guys are here from that, what's up? Think of this as like a film charcuterie board where as I go through these films and watch them, maybe you can find some that pique your interest as well, and you can add them to your list and conquer those too. And to stop myself from being the 1 millionth person to tell you guys that Scott Pilgrim is amazing because of its editing style, which it is, I've gone through and made a general list of here's my movie criteria. I want to watch something weird, something animated, and something that I really should have seen by now. The rest of the lineup will just be random movies from my Letterboxd that pique my interest, and even possibly viewer-submitted ones if this catches on. And then by the end, we'll give our official Letterboxd rating and then call it a day. And just a reminder, this is strictly for fun. I'm not a professional film critic. I'm just a guy. Feel free to subscribe. And please enjoy as I officially attempt to...
My Letterboxd.
In a similar vein, when trying to find new films to watch, actually finding quality music for your videos can be equally as frustrating, if not worse. And that's exactly why I use Epidemic Sound. It's the best sound tracking platform for any creator, full stop. Instead of getting stuck in an endless loop, I can search by mood, genre, or even a specific vibe and instantly find premium tracks that fit perfectly. Recently, I tried their editing plugin, which allows you to streamline their entire catalog at super speed. It took me 2 clicks to install, and now I can just drag and drop any clip that I want right into my timeline. The music is restriction-free, so that means no copyright strikes, and their sound quality is consistently film level, the kind of stuff that can bring any scene to life. That sounds like a great deal, right? And if you sign up using the code FLICH50, not only will you get a 30-day free trial, but you'll also get 50% off your first 2 months after the trial is ended. I've even curated my own playlist of tracks and songs that I've used in previous videos, also linked down below. That sounds like a great deal, right? Anyway, thanks to Epidemic Sound. That sounds like a great deal. You okay, dude?
He's okay. He just has this condition where he gets stun locked from time to time and can't stop telling the truth.
That sounds like a great deal. Oh, well, that's good to know. Anyway, thank you so much to Epidemic Sound for sponsoring this video. All the links will be in the description below. Now let's get back to this video. Let's do it. Let's go. So I wanted to start things off with a movie that I've wanted to see for a really long time that I feel like I should have saw. I missed out on the cultural buzz when all the bees were talking about it. And that movie was Aftersun by Charlotte Wells. I think this movie came out in 2022. I remember it was a really big thing at the Cannes Film Festival. Everyone just seemed to be infatuated by this new director and this brand new film. The story at face value is a recollection of a vacation trip between a dad and his daughter. The dad is around 30, and then the daughter is around 11 years old. And the entire movie is told through the lens of this 11-year-old girl. It's unbelievably wholesome between them. A few sour moments here and there, but the love between the father and daughter is felt. The more that you think about this film, especially after how it ends, it just opens up this brand new, more devastating, darker theme to the movie that is hinted throughout, but is never really told directly what the inherent issue is. This movie feels like one big slice of life, where there's not really one consistent conflict that's happening through the movie that's really felt, or obstacles that you feel like the characters are physically going through. It's a more solemn and methodical piece that really lets you sit and enjoy moments. It has my favorite style of cinematography, where it's extremely long, one takes. All the information that you need for the scene is on screen at that given moment, and we do not cut until you are ready for your next scene. There's no added filler coverage for anything. Everything just feels like it was perfectly crafted. Here you go. This is for you. And when we do have cutaways, sometimes they feel a little mundane in the moment, but upon reflection, you can't help but feel this sort of nostalgia for those kinds of moments. There's one scene in particular. She's going through her progression from childhood to adolescence. So she's noticing what the teenagers are doing, what the adults are doing, and she starts thinking about stuff that she's never really thought about before, noticing that almost every single person around her has at least some other person with with them at all times, whether it be a family member, a close friend, or a person that you're in a relationship with. There's not a lot of direct dialogue with it. The kids are just hanging out in the pool, but it cuts to this scene of just like a pair of socks on like a wrought iron rail, like balcony thing. And I don't know why, but it just made me pause the screen and just like be like, bro, what in the world? Why does this make sense? The most breathtaking, perfectly exposed, just cinematography jump scares, and there's so many of them in this movie. Also, this film has some of the best needle drops of the century. We got the Macarena, tub thumping by Chumbawamba, and then we have, which is the best scene in the whole movie, whenever they needle drop, Under Pressure by Queen. I had the Danny DeVito like lean in, I get it now moment. Oh, that's what this movie's about. Oh my God, my heart and my soul is being torn out through my chest. It's a movie that talks about a lot of things. The struggles from being just an ordinary person to suddenly being a very young parent with a lot of responsibilities that maybe you weren't prepared for at the time, and the hardships that come along with that. But one thing you don't want to do is impose those hardships on a child. The father is struggling throughout this movie, and she's starting to see her father more as the person that he is rather than being the parental figure, trying to peer behind the curtains and ask more questions about his life and his ambitions and where he wanted to be in life. She's just curious and trying to build that connection, but for him, it's hard to answer those questions. He tries to do the best that he can, but at heart, he doesn't really feel like he's doing the best that he can. He has this feeling that his daughter deserves the world, but to her, she doesn't want the world, she wants her dad. After I finished it, I just sat there for a couple minutes just thinking, is this a perfect movie? I think it is. I think this might be a perfect movie. I don't know if it'll be perfect for everybody, but it just scratched that itch for me. And with the cinematography and how this movie is directed, you're stuck in these long takes between moments. At the beginning, you're waiting for it to cut to the next thing and progress the story along to get new information. But the more you get into it, the more you're like, I want to sit in this moment more. Please don't cut. Please, for the love of God, don't cut. Like, I love being here so much. Please don't cut. And you get like cringe moments where an awkward question is posed and someone doesn't want to answer a question that they really don't want to answer. And you're like, oh my God, why are we sitting in this moment? This is so awkward. Please cut. And they just hold you there. And then when it gets to something that is really dramatic and honestly kind of scary, you're praying that the scene does not cut, that you get to see what the resolution is. That's kind of the whole vibe of this movie, this long string of tension, and you're just waiting for that release. Then at a certain point, you don't want that release to happen. I kind of want to coast along in this memory. I would love to hear what people think about this movie if you are a single father with a daughter. For that demographic specifically, there is no chance that you don't leave the room just bawling your eyes out. For any parent that loves their child and wants to do the best for their child but is struggling themselves, this is a movie that'll touch your soul in many, many ways. Brilliantly written and directed. The dialogue just seems so unbelievably natural. It never demands for hard answers to hard-hitting questions or for you to like open your heart and soul out completely. Just have like these super intense like action moments. It's just a nice movie that doesn't ask too much of the audience and the characters. I think that was the overall point for all of it. At least I think. I might be wrong. Maybe. I don't know. But overall, Aftersun's gonna get a big old thumbs up in my book. I have no idea how the next movie's gonna even compare to this, but you know what? It's not about comparison. It's just about watching movies and appreciating them. And so let's do that. Let's go on to the next. And what the f***? I just got done watching a 3-hour and 13-minute long movie called Celine and Julie Go Boating. And the entire time, I was just waiting for them to go boating. How long will it take? The surprise answer, a really long time. This is a post-French New Wave movie, very poetic, methodical, kind of meandering in its pacing a little bit, but it tells the story of just these two women, Julie, who is a librarian, and Celine, who is a magician. They end up moving in together, and you just kind of watch them do stuff. They hang out, they're really cool friends, and they stumble across this mystery empty house that they just walk into every once in a while. And then they emerge hours later, not knowing what the heck just happened, and have like a piece of candy in their mouth. And with that piece of candy that they get every time that they go into this house, it pieces together this fourth wall visual play that they get to go through of a murder that happened in this house. And they get to put all the puzzle pieces together and try to figure out what happened. I almost fell asleep during the first 15 minutes, which had one of the longest opening sequences of almost nothing happening, but it led to something interesting down the line. And by the time the movie ends, it clears up some things and leaves some doors unopened. We have ourselves a classic movie with an unreliable narrator. I felt like I was getting like gaslit or like getting whiplash. What exactly is like the truth that they're telling me right now? Like, is this a lie, or is this like a metaphor for something, or is this actually happening? A lot of non-linear storytelling. About like an hour and a half into the movie is when it really starts kicking into gear that, something sinister is happening in the background. And then it gets into this whole kind of like Groundhog Day, Mystery Science Theater 3000 kind of vibe. One thing that brought me out of the movie a little bit is something that I call opening the door writing. But mostly it's in like student short films where you have a character and their mission is to just get into a room, and they show every aspect of them getting into the room by walking up to the door. They see them like noticing the doorknob. You see them thinking about opening the door. Look at the doorknob one more time. Look at the door, walk to the door, open the door, close the door, and then reaction like right after you close the door. It just feels like extra coverage for the sake of extra coverage. I fully believe that there is a really, really well done 1.5 hour movie in this 3 hour and 13 minute long film. By the time this thing ended, I was probably more confused than I was whenever it started. It honestly feels like someone gave you a gift, then you open it up and it's one of those like boxing gloves, spring trap things that like punches you in the face. But it's like a delightfully bizarre punch in the face, if that makes sense. For the quirkaholics out there, if you like mystical, whimsical movies, this might be the one for you. It's got cabaret, it's got body switching, it's got like stage play things going on in there. Julie and Celine really give me kind of like Thelma and Louise vibes, and their character dynamics are really great. They are the highlight. This movie does like a film within a film within a film, and once it gets into like 2 films deep, I kind of zoned out a little bit, just because it felt like it was more about this other plot instead of the character plot that we were given between Julie and Celine that we were watching. But maybe that's not the point of the story. Maybe it's about the watcher's experience and how stories can be reshaped and retold to mean other things. Real highfalutin, real highbrow, an answer that's not an answer. Maybe something like that. Real art house movie. If you're into art house cinema, which is not my favorite genre of movie. Like, I can't just kick it back with the boys and put on Celine and Julie Go Boating, you know what I mean? But I do appreciate the art form. There's a lot of inspiration, a lot of things you can take from movies like this. I know that David Lynch watched this movie and it's one of his favorites. It's super French, a lot of red, white, and blue. If you like unconventional stories that aren't afraid to go at their own pace, and maybe check this one out. I would love to see a kid with TikTok brain sit through the first 30 minutes of this film, study the brain chemistry between them and what they're watching, and just see what synapses are firing for them. I think that would be pretty interesting. And by the end of the movie, you know what they do? They end up going boating, which felt pretty good. I'm starting to notice something. I may have selected only sad and depressing movies for this lineup of films to watch. It seems like that may be the trajectory that we're going for this video, which was not exactly what I was trying to do, but if that's the case, I guess so be it. Maybe next time I'll pick happy movies. Anyway, I just got done watching Taxi Driver, not to be confused with Taxi Driver. This is A Taxi Driver, directed by Jong Hoon, and I hope I am pronouncing that right. Please, I hope I said that right. Honestly, this movie jump scared me a little bit. It just seemed like it was this really wacky, almost Wes Anderson kind of vibe. Not Wes Anderson in its like writing style, but Wes Anderson in more of its like earlier editing style where it's really fast-paced and really vibrant colors. It's like the color grading in this movie is so vibrant, green and yellow. It looked like I was watching this movie in like a Sprite bottle. This movie tells the story of an ordinary taxi driver getting caught up in a major historical event unknowingly, which is the Gwangju Uprising in South Korea. And for those who don't know, because I also did not know this whenever I was watching the movie, the Gwangju Uprising was this really big event in South Korean history from 1979 to 1990. There was a huge dictator regime that was leading South Korea, trying to squash that communist mentality out of its people. They're very strict for how they ran things, a lot of civil unjust and a lot of governmental injustice that was happening. And it gets to a point to where people can only take so much and they got to do something about it. And so that led to the inevitable Gwangju Uprising, where a bunch of college students and teachers and doctors and ordinary people were just fed up with how the government was and wanted to start a peaceful protest to get things changed, to make things better for South Korea. And that didn't go so well, which inevitably led to a lot of excess military violence to stop the protests in any way, shape, or form, which led to the unfortunate loss of countless South Korean lives. If you asked them at the time, nobody knew that this was happening. Not even the people in Seoul that were just like a little ways away from Gwangju. It was all locked down. You couldn't go in without passing like a military barrier. And for what news that did come out of Gwangju, it was always rumors that, oh yeah, the protesters are being rowdy. A few of them may have been injured, but it's not a lot. But by the time people actually heard what was actually going on, the casualties were up to 2,000 people. The film follows this taxi driver and a reporter that wants to go inside of Gwangju to record what was happening, to spread the word to the world, just to stop this ongoing fight. And you get to see the transformation from this really selfish taxi driver whose only sole purpose in helping this reporter do any of this was just for money. You see him switch from that to becoming a part of the fight. There are more important things to fight for than just money when people are going through this thing that you have no idea that was going on. It tries to help the citizens of the city and get this reporter in and out of Gwangju. The genre switches that happen in this movie are remotely seamless. In the beginning, like I said, it's more like lighthearted, kind of funny. Like there's scenes where like you're laughing with people having fun partying. But once you get settled in the conflict, the tone just completely shifts. And it moves from this jovial adventure thriller type to this unapologetic raw picture of what was happening in this city. This movie was good and not too long too. The main actor in this film was the same guy who was in Parasite. This movie is based on true events, but there are some like fictitious like liberties that they take throughout this movie. Like there's a taxi car chase that happens, and whenever I saw it, I thought this is overly cartoony for the theme that this movie is portraying right now. The feels were still there and it was still high stakes and a lot of heartfelt moments, but I couldn't help but just sit back and think, did this really happen? Did this really happen? I don't know if this happened. I like films that surprise me and tell me things that I don't know, that I'm not aware of, just so I can learn and understand the shared history between different cultures. It's good to learn and appreciate and empathize with other cultures as well. For any kind of injustice, it needs to be stomped out and brought to light just so something can be done about it. If you're into slightly comedic and then instantly super serious movies, this one's for you. Anyway, let's move on to our next movie.
So a little bit of backstory about the movie I just watched. I couldn't find this thing anywhere. I just assumed it was lost media, so I was just going through just like a real deep dive into lower rated, like 1 to 2 star movies. And I didn't want to watch something that was like gimmicky, like The Chair That Eats Your Face, or like The Basketball That Eats Your Face, like those kind of bad movies. Once you've seen one, you know how pretty much every single one's gonna be. But I went through the thick and thin, and I found a copy of this movie on eBay, and now I am a proud owner of the movie Born, starring Alison Brie and Kane Hodder. And the intro title card looks like this. I'm not joking, it looks like this. This is the funniest movie I have ever seen. To all the people who gave this low star ratings on Letterboxd, I don't know what movie you watched, but what I saw was gold. I think I paused this movie at least 7 times before I made it to the 2-minute mark. If a movie can make me pause it that many times in just fits of just like ugly cry laughing, dude, it's amazing. I don't know if this movie is streaming on on any streaming service. So if you can find a way to watch this movie, I would highly recommend you check this one out, because this one is hilarious. The movie opens up on a guy that looks like this. The movie's not about him, it's about Alison Brie. The movie opens up with this guy going to visit a psychiatrist, and the first thing that he says, I'm gonna tell you some really weird shit, and then he puts down like a cylinder thing on a table, and then he goes, you're gonna get really scared. And then afterwards he gives the lady a gun and tells her to pull the trigger anytime that she wants. This guy acts like if the act of paint drying got Pinocchio'd into a person. This dude's a gangster, and with the straightest face, he drops the hardest lines. What do you think this guy's name is? Would you believe me if I told you that this guy's name was Asmodeus, the torturer of the 13th level of hell? Then he goes, I'm a demon. It was there that I paused for like the 11th time, and the movie hadn't even started. Which this movie is like a Rosemary's Baby spoof. Alison Brie plays this character named Mary Elizabeth. Somehow in a freak accident, she ends up getting a Satan spawn in her belly, and then she has to give birth to a demon. All the while, there are other characters that are trying to help her have this baby, and other characters that are trying to stop her from having this baby. And so the movie really follows three main characters: Asmodeus, the demon, Alison Brie playing Mary Elizabeth, and then this one priest who wears jeans a lot with his like priest outfit. A lot of jean priests. But the movie opens up with Alison Brie hearing a crying baby after her mother's funeral outside, and she runs away because she needs to think to herself. After she hears this crying baby, she tries to dig it up with her bare hands, and then a biblically freak storm blows her up into the air with like 900-mile-per-hour winds, and she makes like an X formation in a tree, and then there's 2D lightning everywhere. And then after that, she immediately gets sucked down into the grass, and then this priest that I was talking about comes out and he sprays her with like some holy water out of a spray bottle, and it cuts to her waking up in the graveyard, and it's like the storm never even happened. She lives with her mean sister, her soft-boiled dad, who's also a doctor. It's very important. And then just some other 20-year-old lady in here. There's a scene where Alison Brie can smell the breakfast in the air, and apparently that's like a symbol of like her demon powers and also like her pregnant powers. And then she also gains 15 pounds in a day, and she goes, 15 pounds? That's impossible. And then she throws up immediately, and I went, me too, girl. Me too. And after that, her sister beats her up with a belt after asking her why she has pregnancy symptoms. And then she throws her into an already drawn bath and washes her, tries to drown her in the bathtub, while their dad is just cutting wood with some guy in the wood shop that's in their attic. The priest has some really funny scenes in here where he's like wiretapping into the house trying to get details because someone's telling him about what's gonna happen whenever she has this baby. She has to kill 6 people in order for this baby to be born, and he can't do anything until the baby is born to stop it completely. Every once in a while it'll cut back to like the priest just being just like, oh man, why is this happening? We have to stop this killing. But he doesn't do anything about it. And every time that Alison Brie does some like demon mode freak shit and kills somebody, we always get like a shot of Asmodeus wherever he's at, just being really just downtrodden on himself. Looks rather dire. What's great about this movie is that every actor is amazing. Alison Brie goes so incredibly hard. The camp is unreal. You can all tell that they know that the story is stupid, and they all enjoy that the story is stupid. It rides that fine line between serious and cringe. It's like the perfect example of early 2000s horror media, or just 2000s media in general, where it's unapologetically crude and cringe, but it never folds. Ever. It's not like they overplay it to the point where the novelty wears off. There's always just something extra that shows up. It just felt like a comedy jump scare. There's a confession scene where Alison Brie's character is just bawling her eyes out. And then we cut to the priest on the other side screwing on the silencer on his pistol. Or whenever she goes to like kill her dad, he picks up his oxygen tank and accidentally drops it on her stomach, and that like knocks her out of demon mode for a little bit. Then he has to help her get rid of the demon baby, so he cuts her stomach open because he just has all of the like medical equipment in his house because he's a doctor. And the dad tries to cut out the demon child from the mother. This demon shuts this perfectly circular incision like he was Frodo shutting the door on Gandalf in the Shire. This might be one of the best, worst movies I've ever seen, to where I don't even think it's a bad movie. I didn't know this movie was a comedy. Everywhere I looked, it just said that this was like a horror movie. It's supposed to be just like a really bad like horror movie. But I did not think that I was gonna stop this many times to sit down and be like, oh my God, these guys know what they're doing. I watched this movie at like 2 a.m. The best decision of my life. If somehow this movie makes a comeback, I need people to witness this, because stuff like this can never be forgotten.
So I wasn't expecting to watch this movie for this video specifically, but my sister, it was her birthday the other day, and she really wanted to go see this movie. I had it in my watch list for a really, really long time. It was one of my top 10 really anticipated movies that I wanted to see this year. And so I just thought the opportunity was there, so why not go see it? I really enjoyed myself. The movie was called Together. And I'm gonna try my hardest not to say that word so much in this part, but I feel like it's gonna happen anyway. This is the directorial debut of Michael Shanks. The movie centers around our characters Millie and Tim, played by Dave Franco and Allison Brie, who is making a lot of appearances in this video apparently, which is a pleasant surprise. Way better movie this time around than the one we were talking about before, but I digress. Allison Brie's character is an elementary school teacher in a new school district, and she's just trying to get comfortable with her surroundings and try to set up a nice and secure future for her and her partner. While on the flip side, you have Tim, who is an aspiring musician with a lot of childhood trauma, a lot of codependency issues, and he's just kind of unaware of where he wants to be in life. He wants to do well for his partner and himself. He doesn't know if he's going to be enough for maybe the world, life, his partner, himself. A huge theme of the movie centers around the idea of codependency, and also that weird and toxic mentality of the settler and the reacher. We have someone up here that's secure with who they are to a point and is fairly confident with where they see their future and life plans going. And if they didn't have this person down here, their life wouldn't change all that much, but they still like that person down here, so they just kind of settle for it. Then you have the reacher down here who thinks to themselves, if this person suddenly vanishes from my life, I will not survive. I will be a pile of goop on the ground, and I will be nothing. The movie doesn't go as toxic as maybe I just described it right then, but it's a concept that they play around. And with any relationship, there's going to be a level of uncertainty and security, and whether or not you feel like you're being valued in your relationship, or if you feel like you're doing enough for your partner. And that's the entire goal for this thing. With these two roles, how can we get them to coexist together? Dave Franco kind of feels like a lost puppy dog every once in a while. He does come off as kind of funny, but also kind of sad. Also kind of just like, bro, what are you doing? Let's do something about this, okay? In any relationship, there's always going to be some kind of struggle, some kind of obstacle to overcome, but at the end of the day, you're there because you love the other person. And you want to be there for the other person, and you enjoy their space and you enjoy their company. Relationships aren't just happy cupcakes that you get to just yum, 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 eat all the time. It's something that you work for, and it's something that you actively still build upon as you're going through it. That can lend itself to really positive scenarios and really extreme, horrifically terrible scenarios. And the fact that there just is so much stuff to work through it's interesting. The character dynamics between these two really do feel like a couple who have been together for a very, very, very long time. And if you've been in a relationship for that long, you're going to have some certain expectations for where you would want to be in life and where you expect your partner to be. Not everything's going to be perfect. Not everything's going to be set in stone. Not everyone's paths are always clearly defined. And sometimes it takes us a lot longer to reach exactly where we would want to be. And it's messy, man. But it's beautiful because it's messy. Not everything is gumdrops and rainbows. You get to see some real, like, rock bottom moments. Just real acts of desperation. And it's fun to see them work through those kinds of scenarios in order to help each other out and help their relationship. There's a specific scene in a hallway that I won't spoil, but that was probably my favorite part of the entire movie. What is it that draws two souls together? Is it love? Is it the struggles that we go through to overcome? Or is it the beautiful matrimony between a Christian man and a Christian woman who's to say? I was pleasantly surprised to see how charming the story was. Very well paced, and with its body horror and just other like creep factor moments, you never felt, whoa, jump scare, we got you. If this movie wasn't a horror movie, I still feel like the character interactions still hold up to a pretty solid dramatic relationship piece. It was well structured, it was nuanced, and it wasn't afraid to have fun in these weird and complicated moments, which is really nice to see. I was surprised on how funny this movie was. It's not an outright comedy. It's not afraid to play into these comedic human moments that just naturally come up. And by the end of the movie, it felt more sweet than bittersweet, which once again is really surprising in a body horror movie, where a lot of body horror likes to delve into the psychology of the depreciation of the human form or the human psyche. If you lose this main part of yourself, what do you end up becoming? And from this new point, does that make you a monster, or does it make you crazy? Does it make you hopeful? Does it make you sad? What does this new life present to you? And with body horror, it can end up real bleak and real melancholic and real morally gray doomer mentalities. However, the way that this movie ended was still a little melancholic, but it was a little bit more sweet and a little bit more hopeful, to where you're not afraid about what's about to happen to these two people, which would seem really grotesque in the grand scheme of things, which it is, but still, it was oddly very beautiful. Shout out to the special effects team. There's not a lot of weird, super duper gross out parts in the movie, but it will make you uneasy. It'll make your skin crawl. It'll give you the heebie-jeebies. There's one scene that I absolutely fell in love with, where they fall into this like cavern thing, and Dave Franco's character starts to hyperventilate, and the cave starts to like breathe with him. And I'm like, yo, that's cool. It's really creative with its horror aspects. It wasn't too jump scary. And whenever they do dive into the horror parts or like the real shocking parts, it never overstays its welcome to where it becomes torture porn. Oh, let's just do something gross for the sake of doing something gross. It does its job, then immediately cuts to like directly what happened after that and gets you thinking, holy shit, the shit that they probably just had to go through. And that little cut is insane. Because the movie is called Together, at the beginning, whenever like they're setting up all their stuff to pay off later in the movie, setting up like their Chekhov's gun, I couldn't help but just hyper fixate on certain words that they would say just because of the title. Anytime they said the word combine or separate or isolate, words like that, we were like, okay, well, the movie's called Together, so I would highly recommend you watch this movie with your mom. It's a really fun movie, perfect date night movie if you wanted to go see that. Dave Franco, Alison Brie, exceptional in this movie. Lots of weird supernatural stuff going around, fun body horror, really great music. Overall, pretty good vibe. I like it. So let's go. What's the next movie? Hold up.
Before I dive into the section, I want to give a clear content warning. This review will touch on those topics, and though I won't go into graphic detail, the subject matter itself can be incredibly triggering. So if you don't feel comfortable and you feel like you're not in the right headspace, please skip over this section. Your mental health is way more important to me, so please take care of yourself first. The film I just got done watching was called Lilia Forever. As the credits were rolling, I remember shutting my laptop, sitting there, and then I put my head in my hands and I just kind of like sat there and paused. Not in a moment of like reflection, but almost in that hollowed out way where you feel like you've been scraped raw. This isn't a movie that just makes you sad. It's one that makes you feel suffocated and drained and haunted. Though it's not in this genre, this does feel like a horror movie. The story centers on a 16-year-old girl named Lilia living in a crumbling post-Soviet town. Her mother abandons her in order to chase a better life abroad, and Lilia is left behind to fend for herself. The neglect, the poverty, and the sheer loneliness of her situation is overwhelming, but she isn't completely alone. Well, one source of light in her life comes from this friendship with this younger boy named Volodya, who's also been abandoned and forced to live with another relative who resents him. He mirrors her, another child discarded in the world, another soul searching for a place to belong. Together they carve out moments of joy, running through the streets, laughing at nothing, eating together whenever they scrounge up food. These aren't grand victories, but in their lives, it's everything. With him, Lilia feels safe, and she feels like she belongs somewhere. In those scenes, it feels like the film pauses to remind us that even in the most devastating scenarios, hope can still flicker. At the film's core, Lilia Forever is a story about searching for home and being denied it at every turn. Lilia's apartment, once hers, becomes a symbol of abandonment, and this newfound trip to another country, which she's told will be a fresh start, turns out to be a carefully laid trap for her. They end up giving her a passport with a fake name. They get her to go to the country, and then when she gets there, they take the passport away, and now she's stuck in this country under a new name with no identity for herself. And every space that is supposed to hold comfort or safety instead becomes another betrayal. What makes this film so powerful is how they choose to tell it. The subject matter is provocative, there's no doubt about that, but it shows this crushing reality of exploitation and trafficking, but never itself feels like it's being exploitative. The film doesn't sensationalize Lydia's pain, nor does it use her suffering as shock value. The camera stays with her, grounding everything to her perspective. And we're not watching trauma to be shocked. We experience the slow erosion of a young woman's spirit. And that difference is why the film cuts so deep. It refuses to objectify what she goes through. The actress who plays Lilia, her performance is almost too raw to watch. You believe every flicker of hope and every collapse of despair. The most heartbreaking part of this film was that it's based on a true story of a Lithuanian girl who was trafficked into Sweden and then later took her own life. It's not just a story, it's a reflection on real life horror, the ones that don't stop whenever the credits roll. And I keep coming back to Volodya in this movie because he represents something that Lilia is never allowed to keep, which is unconditional care. He is just as lost and just as unwanted as she is, but he clings to her with this kind of devotion that's almost too pure for the world that they live in. He's the only person that truly sees her and has the best intentions for her, and you watch their connection fray under the weight of everything through Lilia's decisions. It feels like watching the last safe place in the world being dismantled. And by the time the film ended, I felt wrung out. This is not a movie that I could say you should recommend to somebody at like a party or tell someone to throw on a Friday night. This movie is not entertainment, it's endurance. I think it's a really important film, and it's a film that needed to be made because it forces us to remember that behind statistics and news stories, there are real people going through these tragedies, real lives. Girls like Lilia exist right now, and boys like Volodya as well, who want nothing more than to be in a place where they belong. And whenever I finally looked up from my hands, I realized that I wasn't sad. I feel like I gained some of Lilia's trauma. This was an absolute soul-crushing movie that left me feeling down for a little bit. It's a hard movie to watch, but I'm glad that it exists. Please, people, take care, and we're gonna move on to our next movie. So right now it's 2:21 a.m. I set all this stuff up. I put the camera over there, and I sat down for probably like 30 minutes trying to stop myself from like tearing up when trying to think of something to say. This movie was something special. This was my animated pick, and the movie was called Marona's Fantastic Tale. To get this out of the way, this is a film about a dog that dies. You see this dog's entire life as like a flashback after it gets hit by a car, leading up to that moment as it gets to relive every single encounter with every person that they had ever loved. And for each person that they meet, they get a new name and a new identity, meeting these 3 different kinds of people, an acrobat, a construction worker, and then a little girl. One thing that I took away was trying not to forget that you are appreciated. Though things can get bad and things can get sour at some points, you have to take a moment to just sit back and remember that things can be enjoyed. Not everything has to be doom and gloom down in the dumps. For one of the families that the dog meets in the film, this gentleman's mother is deathly ill, and she has these mood swings, and she becomes a different person sometimes, and it's hard for her to get a grip on reality. But when this dog is is introduced, she just has this moment where she doesn't feel like she's sick anymore. And she's just enjoying an afternoon with her son and this new dog, just doing something that she used to love, which was making crepes. Also, this is a French movie. If you're okay with reading subtitles, the art style is really abstract. A lot of mixed media that mixes between contemporary and absurdist and surrealist art. When recommending animated movies, I always say that it's either a movie for people who like animation or people who are animators. And this is a movie really made for animators. And that's not to say that if you're not an animator, you're not going to like this movie. But if you are an animator, you are going to highly appreciate this movie. It'll just be a treasure trove, endless feast of just goodness. It's weird. It's really weird. I don't think this is a movie you can just like pop on with the gang and they're all going to be like, wow, Marona's Fantastic Adventure. Wow. This is a movie that you need to watch like by yourself, and you need to have like a little moment with this movie. But it's animated in this absurdist, abstract style to show you what life is like through a dog's eyes. I've always thought this for a really long time. I truly believe that the only thing that enjoys life the most is a dog in any capacity. They are just so down for anything. They're so excited. The wonder in a dog's eye never fades away. Whenever you look at a dog, that dog is staring back at you with an undying love you can't even put into words. And to see this world, it's almost like stepping into like the mind of a kid. It doesn't really understand what's going on, but it's always this like really extravagant and exciting new thing. The concept of love plays a real big factor in here as the dog goes through each one of their owners. When you love somebody but you feel like you're holding them back, are you okay with letting them go? Loving somebody wholeheartedly but having an external force take you out of their life. Falling in love with somebody, them falling in love with you, and you slowly watching them fall out of love with you. And it packages all of those ideas into one just beautiful ball. And it's like, here, you get to have this. Wow. So good. And you would think that with the subject matter, this would be just like a real Debbie Downer, doom and gloom movie. It wasn't sad. I was just in awe. It felt like I was looking at this never-ending abstract piece that just kept going and going and going. The more that it went, just the more delighted I was. I didn't want this movie to end at all because I knew how it was going to end. That's the bittersweet part. But in the way that this movie ends, it reinforces that idea of just everlasting love. Although the dog does die, the love it creates lives forever. There's a major importance in the concept of identity, where this dog gets a new name for every person that they meet. And that's more so a reflection how we all become different people at different stages in life. When I was 7 years old, I was a completely different person. When I was 17 years old, I was a completely different person. And now that I'm 24 right now, I can say once again that I'm a completely different person, living a completely different life than I was like for every year that I've been around. It's just an interesting thing to see just sped up. Some people feel like they don't change, but you do. It talks about the importance of a name and the privilege that comes with being given a name. Because whenever the dog moves from one person to the next person, they lose their entire identity from who they once were with that other person. And now they are this new dog. Same dog, new dog though. I don't know how I even came across this movie. I think I just liked the poster on Letterboxd and I just put it in my recommended. That's a very common thing whenever I add movies. I just look for posters that look cool and then I just go click. We land on some freaking gold. And it's really creative, really refreshing. Really glad that I watched this movie the way that I watched it. Just by myself, crackhead hours of the night. And it just felt good. I feel really good right now. So,
you remember in the early 2000s, those audio visualizer things that were on Windows XP or like the early versions of Windows that just had like the pipes moving around or just like that weird energy bullshit? And you would just sit there and just watch that stuff for hours without a care in the world. Just vibing. Real peaceful, real serene. And that's the exact same feel I got while watching the movie I just watched, which is called Mirrored Mind. This is a Japanese, surrealist, liminal, abstract kind of movie that's just barely an hour long. So it's a nice, quick watch. And it really feels like a mental detox if you're feeling overwhelmed or if you're feeling a little anxious. It gives off the same feeling as a close friend or a family member calling you to check in on you to see if you're okay. In the story, a filmmaker is in the process of making their big picture, but in the middle of production, she just isn't feeling it anymore. She's lost all the love for the story, all the love for the plot, and she wants to move on to the next thing. But she feels indebted to the project and the people a part of the project, and if she doesn't finish it, what she's going to be going back to isn't going to be anything great either because she is in a tremendous amount of debt. That's the overall thing you should have in your head, but the movie really doesn't tackle that. That's just kind of like over here. But the remainder of this movie is just her going on this soul search kind of journey through these dreamlike and liminal sequences with breathtaking cinematography and really beautiful colors. There's not a lot of dialogue, and the silence really does speak for itself because the film invites you to just kind of exist alongside this character going through this journey rather than just like spilling and venting just like all of their frustrations in the world. You just get to enjoy a collection of beautiful moments of peace. The movie's not forcing you to solve a problem or tackle an issue or trying to make you worried. It's just a film that makes you feel free. I felt like I was falling asleep the entire time, and the movie that I was watching was like the daydream that I was having. And I mean that in the best way possible. I know it's a weird thing to say. This movie made me want to fall asleep, but it does kind of feel like one of those Headspace apps. It tries to give you good thoughts before you fall asleep. It's a very soft and gentle film, and when there is dialogue, the stuff that's brought up is thought-provoking. There's a scene where she meets this woman at a beach. She asks the woman, "Are you okay with being alone?" And the woman replies, "Yes, I am, and I'm always alone, but I'm okay with that because everything that I see around me is just a reflection of the mirror that's inside of my mind." And we all have that mirror. It'll have those introspective moments like that where not a lot is said, but also a lot is said, if you catch my drift. The mirror and the mind analogy really got to me, and that's something I'm really going to take and think about for a while. I am 100% going to watch this movie again. This might be one of the movies that I watch maybe once every year. It's because, like everyone, we can get overwhelmed, we can get anxious, but it's good to know that you're not the only one. And having something or someone you can relate to makes you feel a little less lonely in the world. And so, this was a great movie to end on. It's posted on YouTube for free, so by all means, go check this movie out. That's enough of me talking. Let's move on to the... Got my laptop right over here, and we're going to officially give all of these movies the signature Letterboxd rating. I'm not going to compare them to each other. I'm just going to rate them for what I thought the movie was. And these are subject to change over time upon rewatch, but as of right now, this is how I'm feeling about the movie, and these are just my opinions. If you like the rating, if you don't like the rating, that's completely fine. But you've heard enough of me yapping. Let's get into the ratings. We're gonna go in watch order, starting off with Aftersun. We're gonna give that one a big ol' 5-a-rooney just from the get-go. Outstanding film. Next we have Celine and Julie Go Boating. I'm gonna give that one a 3. A Taxi Driver is gonna get 3.5 stars. Now we have one of our first heavy hitters. We have Born. I'm gonna give that one a 4. Together is also gonna get 4 out of 5 stars. Moving on, Lilia Forever. That's gonna get 4.5 stars. Marona's Fantastic Tale is also going to get slapped with a big old 5-a-rooney. I love this movie. Such a nice feel-good film. And ending off with A Mirrored World, that one's gonna get a 4 out of 5. Since I rated some films higher than other ones, that doesn't mean that they're just completely horrible movies. I thoroughly enjoyed every movie on this list. Each movie was extremely diverse, had its own spirit, and I got some filmmaking inspiration that I could steal. I mean, if you guys want to check out any of these movies, feel free to do so. If you like these kinds of videos, I'm thinking about making this a series. Let's all conquer our letterboxes together. Let's chip away. Let me know what you guys thought about this video. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you to the Patreon people for supporting me. I do appreciate you guys so much. Make sure you hit like, comment, subscribe, all of that stuff. And I will see you guys later. Peace.